The delivery that changed everything Jasmine Brooks checked, her reflection in the polished elevator doors and smoothed down her simple black dress. At 28, she had delivered flowers to hundreds of fancy events across Manhattan, but tonight felt different. The Pier Hotel penthouse was hosting the Whitmore Foundation Gala, and the orchid arrangement she carried was worth more than 3 months of rent on her tiny Brooklyn apartment. Her phone buzzed with a text from Aunt Patty. Remember Smile and Be Invisible? Get in, drop off, get out. That was the golden rule of their business, petals and dreams. Never draw attention. Never overstay. Just deliver the beauty and disappear like magic. The elevator doors opened directly into the penthouse, and Jasmine's breath caught. Crystal chandeliers dripped from 20-foot ceilings like frozen waterfalls. Women in designer gowns glided across, marble floors that reflected the city lights twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. Men in custom tuxedos held champagne flutes with the casual confidence of people who had never worried about money. Jasmine felt suddenly aware of her worn ballet flats and department store dress. She clutched the orchid arrangement tighter and scanned the crowd for Eleanor Whitmore, the woman who had specifically requested personal delivery. Delivery entrance is that way, a security guard said, pointing toward a service hallway. Mrs. Whitmore asked me to deliver personally, Jasmine explained, showing her business card. Something about final touches that need to be done on site. The guard spoke into his earpiece, then reluctantly nodded her through. Jasmine navigated the edges of the ballroom, keeping her eyes down. She spotted Eleanor across the room, an elegant woman with silver hair and pearls that probably had their own insurance policy. Almost there. Then she saw him. The man who couldn't escape Cameron Whitmore stood near the terrace doors. And even from 30 feet away, Jasmine could see he looked miserable. 3 women in evening gowns surrounded him, talking rapidly while he smiled with the kind of politeness that screamed, "Help me." At 34, Cameron had the kind of face that belonged on magazine covers. Sharp features, dark hair with just enough gray at the temples to look distinguished, and blue eyes that probably made investment bankers nervous during negotiations. His tuxedo fit like it had been, painted on by someone who really understood fabric. Jasmine hated that she noticed all this in 3 seconds. And then I told my trainer that 2 hours of Pilates daily isn't obsessive. It's self-care, one of the women was saying, practically draping herself across Cameron's arm. Fascinating, Cameron replied with that same trapped smile. Not my problem, Jasmine thought. Billionaires probably had entire teams trained to rescue them from boring conversations. She was 10 feet from Eleanor when everything went sideways. A woman in 4-inch heels stepped backward without looking, her stiletto coming down hard on the hem of Jasmine's dress. Jasmine lurched forward. The $3,000 orchid arrangement flew from her hands in a graceful arc. White petals scattered like snow. She windmilled her arms, did an involuntary spin that would have impressed a figure skater, and collided directly with something solid and warm. Cameron Whitmore. The impact caught him completely off guard. His champagne went flying. His arms automatically wrapped around her to keep them both from falling. And then, in a movement that would later be analyzed by tabloid journalists and physics students alike, Cameron stumbled backward, his knee buckled, and he dropped down on one knee while holding both of Jasmine's hands, right as the orchestra hit a dramatic pause. Between songs, 200 heads turned simultaneously. The ballroom went silent, with that special kind of quiet that happens right before something catastrophic. Jasmine looked down. Cameron looked up. Their eyes met in a moment of pure mutual horror. The grandmother's dream, Cameron. Eleanor Whitmore's voice rang out across the silent ballroom. The elderly woman moved faster than Jasmine thought possible for someone using a cane, practically floating across the marble floor. Tears were already shimmering in her eyes. One hand pressed over her heart. "My boy," Eleanor whispered, her voice breaking with emotion. Finally, "Grandmother, wait." Cameron tried to stand, but Jasmine was frozen in shock, and he was still holding her hands. Standing up would mean letting go, which would somehow be even more awkward. So he stayed there, kneeling, trapped. "I knew it," Eleanor continued, tears now streaming down her perfectly made-up face. "I told everyone. I told him that Delilah girl wasn't right for you. I said you would find someone special when the time was right. The crowd erupted in applause. Camera phones appeared like fireflies. Someone shouted, "Congratulations." The orchestra, reading the room perfectly, began playing a romantic waltz. "No, there's been a mistake," Jasmine tried to explain, but her voice was drowned out by the celebration. Cameron stared up at her, and she could see his brain working through options. She recognized the look. It was the same calculation she did every time. Aunt Patty suggested she should start dating that nice boy from the bakery. Option A. Explain the accident and disappoint. Grandmother in front of 200 people? Option B. Something else. Something desperate. Then Eleanor was there, her hands trembling as she cupped Cameron's face. Her voice dropped to a whisper, but Jasmine was close enough to hear every word. "My dear boy, I was so worried after the diagnosis. The doctors said 6 months, maybe less, and I thought I would never see you truly happy. Never see you settled with someone who loves you for who you are, not what you represent." Jasmine saw something flicker across Cameron's face, something raw and frightened and completely real. She watched him make a decision that would change both their lives. "Grandmother," Cameron said, his voice surprisingly steady, "I would like you to meet my fiancé." The aftermaths of ballroom exploded into chaos. Well-wishers swarmed them. Women squealed. Men shook Cameron's hand while clapping him on the back. Someone popped champagne. The photographer started directing them into poses. Through it all, Cameron kept hold of Jasmine's hand like a lifeline. His smile was perfect for the cameras, but he leaned close and whispered so only she could hear. "I am so sorry. Please just follow my lead for 5 minutes. I promise I'll explain everything and fix this." 5 minutes. Jasmine hissed back through her own frozen smile. "We just got engaged in front of half of Manhattan. Technically more like 1/8, if we're being geographical about it. Not the time for math. Darlin'." Eleanor pulled Jasmine into a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and hope. "I need to know everything. How did you meet? How long have you been seeing each other? Where did he propose? We need to start planning immediately. 3 months isn't much time." 3 months? Jasmine repeated weakly. "For the wedding, dear?" Eleanor's smile was radiant. "The doctors say I have 6 months, at most. 3 months gives us time for a proper wedding with all the traditions. This is everything I wanted, to see my grandson married before I go." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Jasmine looked at Cameron. Cameron looked at Jasmine. Around them, the party continued. The orchestra played. Champagne flowed. People toasted their happiness, and Jasmine realized 3 things. Simultaneously, she was completely screwed. Cameron Whitmore was also screwed, and they were screwed. Together. Reagan Whitmore. Cameron's sister appeared beside them with a mischievous grin and a raised champagne flute. "To the happy couple," she announced loudly. Cameron squeezed Jasmine's hand. She squeezed back, not reassuringly. It's more like an "I'm going to kill you as soon as this party ends" kind of squeeze, but out loud. With a smile that would have made any actress proud, Jasmine said, "Cheers." As 200 glasses clinked and Eleanor Whitmore cried tears of joy, Jasmine Brooks had one crystal-clear thought. She had just gotten engaged to a complete stranger. A billionaire stranger? In a 5-star hotel? In front of Manhattan's elite? Aunt Patty was going to kill her. The smile and be invisible rule was definitely broken. The morning after reality, Jasmine woke up to her phone vibrating like it was having a seizure. 43 missed calls. 67 text messages. And a diamond ring on her finger that felt heavier than her entire body. She stared at the cracked ceiling of her Brooklyn studio apartment, where water stains formed shapes that looked like judgmental faces. The salsa music from next door was already thumping through the walls at 7 in the morning. Maybe yesterday was a dream. Maybe she had fallen asleep during the delivery and imagined the whole thing. Her phone rang again. Aunt Patty's face filled the screen. Jasmine answered on speaker. "Before you say anything, Jasmine Marie Brooks, Why is my niece on page 6 wearing a ring that could buy a house? It's complicated. Complicated? There's a photo of a man on his knees in front of you at the pier. That's not complicated. That's engaged. Jasmine pulled up the gossip site on her laptop with her free hand. There it was, front page. Whitmore air-stunned society with surprise engagement to Brooklyn Florist. The photo was actually beautiful in a catastrophic way. Cameron, on one knee, looking up at her with an expression somewhere between panic and desperation. Jasmine frozen mid-stumble, orchids exploding around them like white fireworks. Her face caught between shock and horror, but somehow the photographer made it look romantic. Sources say the couple has been secretly dating for months, the article read. The engagement comes as welcome news to Eleanor Whitmore, matriarch of the Whitmore real estate empire, who has been battling terminal pancreatic cancer. Wedding plans are already underway for spring. Aunt Patty, I need to explain. A knock on her door made Jasmine jump. I have to go. I'll call you back. I promise. She hung up before her aunt could protest and stumbled to the door in her old college t-shirt and pajama pants covered in cartoon cupcakes. Cameron, Whitmore stood in her dingy hallway, looking completely out of place among the peeling paint and flickering lights. He wore dark jeans and a white button-down with rolled-up sleeves, carrying 2 coffee cups and a bag that smelled like heaven. Good morning, fiancé, he said with an exhausted smile. We need to talk. The plan, this is where you live? Cameron looked around the 400-square-foot studio with barely concealed shock. Not all of us were born in penthouses, Jasmine said defensively, grabbing one of the coffees. She took a sip and nearly moaned. Whatever this was, cost more than her weekly grocery budget. How did you even find my address? I'm a billionaire. We have resources. That's creepy. That's efficient. Die. Set the pastry bag on her tiny kitchen counter and pulled out croissants from that French place in Tribeca where reservations required a 2-month. Wait. Jasmine's stomach growled loud enough to be heard. Across the river? Eat, Cameron commanded. You'll need energy. We have exactly 9 hours until the engagement dinner. About that, Jasmine said, taking a croissant and trying not to let her eyes roll back at how perfect it tasted. Your mother has called me 4 times this morning from a number listed as Whitmore Estate. Do you people actually have an estate? 3 estates, plus the penthouse and the Hamptons house. Of course you do. Cameron pulled out his phone. Tonight, you're meeting my entire family, plus their closest friends. Approximately 40 people who will analyze your every word, gesture, and breathing pattern. No pressure. Immense pressure, he corrected. My mother is Veronica Whitmore, and she can smell fear from a mile away. My father, Jonathan, will interrogate you like you're a hostile witness. My sister Reagan will either love you or destroy you, depending on her mood. And Delilah Ashford will definitely be there. Delilah, your ex-almost fiancée? The very same. And she's persistent, meaning she doesn't take rejection well. Ever, in any circumstance. For the next 2 hours, Cameron drilled Jasmine on every detail of his life. Birthday, March 22nd. Favorite coffee, black Americano. College, Columbia Business School. Allergies, shellfish. Childhood pet, a golden retriever named Biscuit. How they met, she helped him choose flowers for Eleanor 3 months ago. Why they kept it secret. To avoid media circus and family pressure, every time Jasmine got something wrong, Cameron made her do jumping jacks. By the time they finished, she had done approximately 400 and learned that Cameron Whitmore once got food poisoning at his own charity dinner, was terrified of birds after a seagull attack at age 7, and had a surprisingly dorky laugh when he forgot to be perfect. Jasmine gasped, collapsing on her bed after the final round. I think I know you better than people you've actually dated. It's probably true, Cameron admitted, checking his watch. Which brings us to the elephant in the room. There are several elephants. Your outfit for tonight? Jasmine looked down at her cupcake pajamas. What's wrong with my clothes? Nothing, if you're planning to attend as yourself. But you're attending as my fiancé, which means you need to look like Upper East Side royalty. He typed something on his phone. My stylist will be here in 30 minutes. The Transformation Harrison Chen, Cameron's stylist, arrived like a fashion tornado. He circled Jasmine with narrowed eyes, made thoughtful humming sounds, and started pulling clothes from garment bags that probably cost more than her car, if she had a car. Rich bone structure. Excellent, Harrison muttered. Height, good. Figure we can work with this. Confidence needs improvement. I'm confident, Jasmine protested. You're wearing cartoon cupcakes in front of a billionaire at 9 in the morning. That's either confidence or a cry for help. 3 hours later, Jasmine didn't recognize herself. The navy silk dress hugged her curves before flowing into an elegant skirt. Her usually messy brown hair was styled in soft waves. Makeup that looked natural, but somehow made her look like she had slept 8 hours instead of 3. Diamond earrings borrowed from some Whitmore vault she didn't want to know about. Wow, Cameron said when she emerged from the bathroom. Too much. He stepped closer, and Jasmine's heart did something complicated. You look like you belong. I look expensive. Both can be true. His hand came up, hesitated, then gently tucked a loose curl behind her ear. Ready? Absolutely not. Perfect. Let's go. The Lion's Den, the Whitmore penthouse, made the pier look modest. The elevator opened directly into the apartment because apparently regular doors were for regular people. The entryway was bigger than Jasmine's entire apartment building. Actual Monet paintings hung on the walls. The view of Central Park looked photoshopped. Deep breaths, Cameron whispered, his hand on the small of her back. The living room was already filled with people. Women in cocktail dresses that cost more than college tuition. Men in suits that had names. Everyone holding champagne and talking in that specific way rich people talked, loud enough to be heard, but quiet enough to seem refined. Ow. There you are. A woman glided toward them, and Jasmine immediately recognized Veronica Whitmore from her panicked Google search that afternoon. Veronica had Cameron's bone structure, but none of his warmth. Ice blue eyes evaluated Jasmine like she was furniture being considered for purchase. Mother, Cameron said smoothly. This is Jasmine Brooks, the florist who captured my son's heart, Veronica interrupted. How unexpected. It wasn't a compliment. It's lovely to meet you, Mrs. Whitmore, Jasmine said, channeling every etiquette video she had speed-watched. Call me Veronica. After all, you're practically family now. The smile didn't reach her eyes. Tell me about your background. Your parents? My mother passed away when I was 12. My father works construction. I was raised by my Aunt Patty, who owns Petals and Dreams in Brooklyn. How unfortunate about your mother. And you attended college? Brooklyn College, Business Administration. How practical. Veronica took a sip of champagne. Another subtle dismissal. There's my big brother. Reagan Whitmore swept over, linking her arm through Jasmine's and steering her away. Don't mind, Mother. She's like this with everyone who doesn't come from old money. I, however, want to know everything. Reagan was beautiful in that effortless way rich girls mastered, with highlighted hair and a smile that was friendly but dangerous. How did you get Cameron to stop being such a workaholic robot? I just sold him flowers, Jasmine said honestly. Boring. Tell me something juicy. Does he snore? Steal covers? Have weird habits? Jasmine's face went red. We haven't actually stayed together yet. It's only been 3 months. Reagan's eyes went wide with delight. Oh my goodness, you haven't slept together? That's actually adorable. Very old-fashioned. I approve completely. Well, if it isn't the blushing bride-to-be. Jasmine turned to find Delilah Ashford standing there in a white dress that was definitely a statement. Blonde hair in perfect waves, expressions somewhere between amused and predatory. Delilah. Cameron appeared at Jasmine's side immediately. What a surprise. Is it? Our families have been friends for decades. Delilah turned to Jasmine, looking her up and down. So you're the one who stole Cameron's heart. How romantic. Tell me, how exactly does a flower girl from Brooklyn end up with Manhattan's most eligible bachelor? The room had gone quiet. Everyone was watching. This was a test. I have really excellent flowers, Jasmine said sweetly. And apparently excellent timing. Several people laughed. Reagan snorted into her champagne. Even Cameron's mouth twitched. Delilah's smile hardened. Charming. I'm sure you'll fit in perfectly. The dinner from Hell Dinner was an experience Jasmine would need therapy to process. She was seated between Cameron and a man named Preston Whitfield, who immediately started asking invasive questions about her 5-year plan and prospects. Across the table, Delilah made pointed comments about breeding and knowing where one comes from. Veronica, at the head of the table, orchestrated conversation like a conductor, steering topics toward subjects designed to make Jasmine uncomfortable. So Jasmine, Veronica said over the second course, have you given thought to where you'll live after the wedding? The penthouse has been in the Whitmore family for 4 generations. We haven't discussed, Jasmine started. Of course you'll need to stop working, Veronica continued. A Whitmore wife has certain responsibilities. Charity work, social obligations. I'm afraid there won't be time for flower arranging. Jasmine felt her jaw clench. Actually, my business is important to me. How quaint. But surely you understand that marrying into this family means sacrifices, Mother Cameron said, his voice tight. I'm simply being practical, darling. No, a voice said from the doorway. You're being rude. Everyone turned. Eleanor Whitmore stood there in an elegant lavender dress, leaning on her cane, but looking every inch the family matriarch. Grandmother, Veronica stood quickly. You should be resting. I'll rest when I'm dead, Eleanor said cheerfully, making her way to the table. Which, according to my doctors, could be any day now, so I'd rather spend time with my grandson and his lovely fiancée. She stopped next to Jasmine's chair. Stand up, dear. Let me look at you. Jasmine stood, heart pounding. Eleanor took both her hands, studying her face with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Then she smiled. A real warm smile. You have kind eyes, Eleanor said, and you make my grandson laugh. That's all I need to know. She turned to the table. Anyone who has a problem with this union can take it up with me. And I promise I'm much scarier when I'm dying. The table erupted in nervous laughter. Eleanor sat next to Jasmine for the rest of dinner, telling hilarious stories about Cameron as a child that made him progressively redder. For a moment, Jasmine forgot they were faking, forgot about the test and judgment. For a moment it felt real, and that was terrifying. The truth comes out later that night. Cameron's car pulled up to Jasmine's building. That was intense, Jasmine said. That was a nightmare, Cameron corrected, loosening his tie. But you were perfect. Grandmother loves you. Your grandmother is wonderful. Your mother, however, is terrifying. She has concerns.
Ow.
They both laughed, then fell into comfortable silence.
Can I ask you something?
Jasmine said. Sure. Why did you really need me to do this? You could have just told your family you weren't ready to marry Delilah. Cameron was quiet for a long moment. Because if I'd told them I wasn't marrying Delilah, they would have found someone else. Another appropriate heiress with the right connections. And I'm tired of being treated like a business transaction instead of a person. He looked at her, and in the dim light, his eyes were vulnerable. Does that make sense? Yeah, Jasmine said softly. It does. Same time tomorrow? Cameron asked. We have a charity gala Tuesday. You forgot to mention a gala? My bad. It's black tie. Harrison will handle it. I hate you. No, you don't. Cameron grinned. See you tomorrow, fiancé. Jasmine climbed the stairs to her apartment, her head spinning. This was insane. Completely insane. But for the first time in forever, she felt alive. The gala disaster, the Metropolitan Museum of Art, glittered like something from a fairy tale. Jasmine stood in an emerald gown that Harrison had insisted brought out her eyes. Diamonds borrowed from yet another Whitmore vault sparkling at her ears. And tried to remember how to breathe. You look terrified, Cameron whispered, his hands steady on her lower back. I am terrified. There are like 500 people here. Only 300. You'll be fine. Just smile and follow my lead. For the first hour, they worked the room like professionals. Jasmine talked to donors about children's health care and making a difference. Phrases Cameron had drilled into her. They posed for photos, laughed at unfunny jokes, played the perfect couple. It was exhausting. I need air, Jasmine whispered after their 20th conversation with someone, whose name she immediately forgot. Cameron steered her toward the terrace. 5 minutes, then we have to do the speech. Speech? What speech? Did I forget to mention the speech? Cameron Whitmore, I swear. There you are. Delilah appeared in a silver dress that defied physics, flanked by two friends who looked like they ate souls for breakfast. Jasmine, we need to talk. Girl to girl. Cameron tensed, but Delilah waved him off. Just a few minutes. We're practically family now, right? Before Jasmine could protest, Delilah had steered her away from Cameron. Through the crowd, toward the powder room. The confrontation, the museum bathroom, was nicer than most apartments. Marble everything. Gold fixtures. Actual cloth towels. Delilah's friends blocked the door. I'll be direct, Delilah said, reapplying lipstick with practiced precision. I don't understand what Cameron sees in you. No offense, plenty taken. You're pretty enough, I suppose. In a girl next door way? But Cameron needs someone who understands his world. Someone who can navigate society without embarrassing him. It's like you. Exactly like me. Delilah turned to face her fully. We were perfect together. Everyone thought so. Our families have been friends for generations. We summer in the same places. We speak the same language. Then why didn't he marry you? Delilah's perfect face tightened. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Because 3 months ago, everything was fine. We were practically engaged. Then suddenly he's with you, a nobody from Brooklyn. I prefer to think of myself as a somebody from Brooklyn. This isn't a joke, Delilah snapped. You're in over your head. Eventually, Cameron will realize you don't fit into his life. And when that happens, I'll be right there waiting. Jasmine stared at Delilah's perfect face, her perfect dress, her perfect certainty that she belonged. Something in Jasmine snapped. You know what I think? Jasmine said, her voice steady. I think you're scared. Excuse me? You're scared because Cameron chose me over you. Not because of money or status or speaking the same language, because he actually likes me. The real me? That's ridiculous. Is it? Because you seem pretty desperate to convince me to leave. Which tells me you're not as confident as you pretend. Delilah's face flushed red. You have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, maybe not. But I know Cameron. And he's not with me because I know which fork to use. He's with me because I make him laugh. Because I see him as a person, not a trophy. The door opened and Reagan walked in. There you are. Oh, am I interrupting? Not at all, Jasmine said, not breaking eye contact with Delilah. Delilah was just leaving. Fake speech that felt real. Cameron found Jasmine on the terrace 15 minutes later. What happened? Reagan said there was some kind of confrontation with Delilah. Just girl talk, Jasmine said lightly. Nothing I couldn't handle. Cameron studied her face. You're sure? Positive. Now about this speech you forgot to mention. Right. So the foundation director wants us to say a few words about our engagement in supporting children's health care. Cameron, I can't give a speech to 300 people. Yes, you can. I'll be right there with you. 10 minutes later, they stood on a small stage, spotlights making Jasmine's emerald dress sparkle. Cameron held her hand as he spoke into the microphone about the importance of the foundation's work. Then he turned to her. And I'd like to thank my fiancée Jasmine for reminding me what really matters in life. Everyone applauded. Jasmine knew she was supposed to say something, anything. She looked at Cameron, at his genuine smile, at the way he squeezed her hand reassuringly. When Cameron first walked into my flower shop 3 months ago, Jasmine heard herself saying, I thought he was just another customer. But he spent an hour asking me about every flower, their meanings, their stories. He didn't buy the most expensive arrangement. He bought the one that reminded him of his grandmother's garden. It was all made up, but it felt true. That's when I knew he was different, Jasmine continued. He sees beauty in simple things. He listens. He cares. And every day he reminds me that kindness matters more than any amount of money. Cameron was staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. I'm the luckiest woman in the world, Jasmine finished. Not because Cameron is wealthy or successful, but because he has the biggest heart of anyone I've ever met. The applause was deafening. Cameron pulled her into a hug, and she felt him whisper in her ear, "That was perfect. Thank you." When they pulled apart, Jasmine saw tears in his eyes. The Hampton house. The next morning, they drove to the Hamptons for the polo match weekend. The Whitmore Beach House was a 12-bedroom mansion overlooking the ocean. "Home sweet home," Cameron said, grabbing their bags. "This is obscene. Wait until you see inside." Veronica appeared in designer linen. "Welcome, darlings. I've put you both in the East Wing, second floor, ocean view. You'll be sharing a room, of course. You are engaged." Jasmine's stomach dropped. "Oh, we don't need to." "Nonsense. Besides, the house is full. The Ashfords arrived an hour ago." "The Ashfords." Cameron's voice went flat. "Of course. They're family friends." "Delilah is so looking forward to the polo match." The shared room. The room was gorgeous, with French doors opening to a balcony and ocean views. "And one bed?" "I'll take the couch," Cameron said immediately, looking at the tiny love seat. "You won't fit. I'll make it work." "Cameron, you're over 6 feet tall." "Your legs will hang off. I've slept in worse places." "When?" "I'm sure I have."
How?
Despite everything, Jasmine laughed. "We can share the bed. We're adults. We'll build a pillow wall. A pillow wall. Trust me. I have 3 younger cousins. I'm an expert." They spent 10 minutes building an elaborate barrier down the middle of the bed, using every decorative pillow in the room. "This is ridiculous," Cameron said. "This is survival." Knock interrupted them. They frantically threw pillows back into casual arrangements before Cameron opened the door. Reagan stood there, grinning. "Mom wanted me to tell you dinner's in an hour. Cocktails on the terrace now. Also, the pillow wall is classic. Tyler and I did the same thing." They looked at each other and burst out laughing. "We're terrible at this," Jasmine said. "The worst." The polo match the next morning. Jasmine stood on the sidelines of the polo field, trying to understand a sport that made no sense. Men on horses hitting balls with mallets, while rich people cheered. Cameron looked unfairly good in his polo uniform. White pants, blue jersey, boots that probably cost more than her rent. "You're staring," Reagan said beside her. "I'm trying to understand the rules." "Sure you are." Reagan grinned. "For what it's worth, I've never seen my brother this happy. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." If only she knew. The match started. Cameron was incredible, moving across the field with confidence. Delilah was on the opposing team, also skilled. And Jasmine felt that uncomfortable twist of jealousy again. Halfway through, Cameron's horse stumbled. He fell hard, hitting the ground with a sickening thud. Jasmine was running before she realized it, pushing past security onto the field. "Cameron." He sat up slowly, wincing. "I'm fine. Just got the wind knocked out. You fell off a horse. It happens in polo. You could have been killed." Cameron looked up at her, and something shifted in his expression. "You were worried about me." "Of course I was worried, you idiot." Their faces were inches apart. Around them, people were shouting. Medics were running over. But Jasmine only saw Cameron. "Jasmine," he whispered, "I need to tell you something." "What?" "This thing between us, it's not fake anymore." "Not for me." Jasmine's heart stopped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm falling in love with you. For real." Before she could respond, medics arrived, insisting on checking Cameron over. But as they helped him to his feet, he didn't let go of her hand. Eleanor's truth that evening. Eleanor asked to speak with Jasmine privately on the beach. "I need to tell you something," Eleanor said, settling into a beach chair. "And I need you to be honest with me." Jasmine's heart raced. "Of course, it's engagement. It's not real, is it?" Jasmine's breath caught. "How did you know?" "I'm old, dear. Not blind." Eleanor smiled gently. "I saw the way you two looked at each other that first night. Pure panic. And I thought about the timing. Cameron being pressured to marry Delilah. Me making such a fuss about his happiness. Eleanor, I'm so sorry. We never meant to hurt you." "I know." Eleanor patted her hand. "And here's the thing. I don't care what. These past 2 weeks, watching you two together, I've seen my grandson become himself again. Laughing, relaxed, genuine, Whether the engagement started as fake or not, what I'm seeing now is real. You're good for him. Tears welled in Jasmine's eyes. He said he's falling in love with me. And how do you feel about him? Jasmine looked out at the ocean, where Cameron was walking with his father, probably being lectured about polo safety. I think I'm falling too, she whispered. But I'm terrified. Our worlds are so different. Your family thinks I don't belong. Delilah's right. I don't know which fork to use or how to navigate society. What if he realizes I'm not enough? Eleanor took Jasmine's hand. My dear girl, let me tell you a secret. I was a waitress when I met Cameron's grandfather. Can you imagine? The great Whitmore patriarch fell in love with a woman who served him coffee. His family was horrified. Really? Really? And we had 53 years of marriage before he passed. Not because I learned which fork to use, but because we loved each other. Really loved each other. Eleanor squeezed her hand. Don't let fear keep you from something real. The real proposal that night, Cameron found Jasmine on their balcony watching the waves. So, he said softly, Grandmother talked to you? She knows the truth? She figured it out on day one. She told me. Cameron stepped closer. She also told me to stop being an idiot and tell you how I really feel. You already told me. On the polo field? That wasn't how I wanted to do it. Cameron took her hand. Jasmine Brooks, these past 2 weeks have been the best of my life. Not because we fooled everyone, but because I got to know you. The real you. The woman who helps waiters clean up broken glass. Who speaks her mind to my mother. Who ran onto a polo field because she was worried about me. Cameron, I'm not asking you to be my fake fiancé anymore. He pulled out a small box. Inside was a simple diamond ring. Nothing like the Whitmore family heirloom she'd been wearing. I'm asking you to be my real one. Will you marry me? For real this time. Jasmine looked at this man who had stumbled into her life, who made her laugh, who saw her as an equal, who made her believe in fairy tales again. Yes, she whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. Cameron slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her. Really kissed her. Not for cameras or family or show, just for them. When they pulled apart, Reagan was on the next balcony over, wiping tears from her eyes. That was beautiful, she called out. Also, I totally have it on video. Your wedding website is going to be amazing. Reagan? Cameron groaned. But Jasmine just laughed, wrapped her arms around her real fiancé, and thought that sometimes the best stories start with a complete disaster. Eleanor Whitmore passed away 3 months later, 1 week after dancing at Cameron and Jasmine's wedding, but she went peacefully, having seen her grandson find real love with a Brooklyn flower girl who taught him that the most beautiful things in life can't be bought, they're earned. One genuine moment at a time.